Welcome home.
Welcome home.
You know why we like to say it?
That's true.
We hope it's true. We hope that for us, home evokes safety. So the idea is you don't have to fit in because you already belong. You don't have to, fake who you are, fake what you believe. You don't have to know what you believe. Hopefully, my beliefs today are different than they were a while back, and I call that growth, and it's all a journey. So that's what we mean when we say welcome home. Welcome to kind of support on your journey. So today I want to start off with this. Okay. Yeah, Lori, you recognize this. Okay, yeah. I don't recognize much anything bigger than this, but this was a big investment for me today. So, does this have value? Of course it does. Being human, we have numerical value and some outrank others, but let's just focus on this for now. Does this have value? What if it was stuck behind the piano? Does it still have value? Yeah. What if I lost it? What if I couldn't find it? What if I didn't know where it was? Would it still have value?
Sure.
Right. And would I leave the other bills in my wallet to go look for it if I lost it? You bet I would. Would I leave them out? No, I wouldn't just throw others away. But yeah, I'd be like, where is that? That's got some value. I need to find it. So, what about this one? Is this one more important than this one? Well, the serial number is different, maybe? Hopefully. If not, I printed them wrong. Okay. So you get the idea that I'm going with here. Because today we're going to look back at a parable that Pastor Carl went over last week, and that we've gone over before, but different aspects. And it's one you've probably heard several times if you grew up in church. And that's why I didn't want to do it as the reading, because you probably read it. But let's look at the Gospel of Luke. And there's going to be a few parables, but the big one we're going to end up on is, of course, the prodigal son. But we're going to look at the Gospel of Luke to give us that and other illustrations. And remember, these are parables that Jesus used specifically when the Pharisees were grumbling about who he was hanging out with. Because I think the context is kind of important with that. So starting with verse 3 in Luke 15. Then Jesus told them this parable. Now he's talking to the Pharisees. There are other people around, but he's mostly aiming this at the religious leaders of the time. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And we sing about that. How cool is that? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me. I found my lost sheep." You ever do that? You've been looking. I've got this pair of glasses that's now just a big joke. I think it ended up in a Goodwill box, unknowingly or unintentionally. But it was a few years ago. They were blue rimmed glasses. They were the correct prescription and everything. I haven't been able to find them forever. And you can bet if they show up, I will be calling my wife and going, "You will never believe what I found." And I will be wearing those things, even though my prescription has changed since I've been like, "Look, I've been looking all over for these." So we've got the sheep. Now, did the sheep change value just because it wasn't with the others? No. Was it lost? Well, yeah. As far as the shepherd was concerned, maybe the sheep was just like, "I'm just hanging out." Maybe the sheep needed some me time.
Really?
Maybe the shepherd gave him the woolies.
Really?
You keep doing it. They get worse. Is my hour up yet? Okay. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Doesn't she light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she calls her friends and neighbors together and says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost coin." And hopefully your friends and neighbors are like, "Yay!" Not going, "I don't have a coin, you have a coin than I do." But we all know what happens. So did the coin become worthless because it was trapped between the sofa cushions or something? No. But we tend to think that way about people. If they're not on the path or in the location, whether spiritually or physically, that we think they should be, we tend to devalue them. Let me take it further. Most of you are familiar with the story of the prodigal son. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. Yeah. Just saying. All right. Of course, that part's easy to spot. That's entitlement, right? Felt entitled. Today we're going to talk about entitlement versus affirmation. So we've got the youngest son, and he's like, "I want all that you owe me, and I'm going to go over here." And then he, of course, blew all the money. Now, chances are he had a job or whatever, and he just thought it would keep coming in, because don't we all, it keeps coming in. Because what really did him in is the next part. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country. That's when he began to be in need. So it's easy to blame this guy for spending his money, but when we think the next paycheck's coming, it's pretty easy to do. And I'm just trying to balance it out a little bit, because it's easy to point to this kid and say, like, "Oh, see, he's prodigal." We all assign that. Whoa, prodigal living and this and that and the other. Yes, he blew his stuff. Yes, he, was living wild. But also a famine hit. So there's multiple things that contribute to someone's experiences in life or someone's predicaments in life. So after the famine hit, he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, so he's still a foreigner in that country. And the citizen sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach. Pastor Carl talked about this last week, about wanting just the pods. And finally, kind of coming to his senses and going, I know back in my homeland, my father takes much better care of his servants than these guys do. So if I can just make it back there and beg my father for a place, not a place at the family table, but just, the kids' table, the servant, just let me be a servant, just please have mercy on me. So, what if this item of value had not only been lost, but had been through some stuff? Had been stomped on, had been wasted, was all crumpled up, had some scars to show for it. Not as easy to look at, maybe. So now the prodigal son gets up and goes to his father. And the word says, while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Now, let's stop there for a moment. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. This is a kid who went off all shiny and came back probably pretty ratty, stinky, been with the pigs, hadn't been eaten. He probably wasn't feeling very valuable. And yet his daddy ran to him and restored him. Did the son go through some stuff? Did it do away with his scars? No, he still had scars. He's still not shiny anymore. But the father reminded the son of his value. He's still just as valuable as he has ever been. Now, were there consequences of him going off? Yes. He went through all that stuff, like we said. Whereas if he had just stayed safe, he'd be young and shiny, and, well, not young, we'd all age, but he'd go through some stuff. And we tend to forget about that aspect. We tend to either think, oh, you're restored, everything is perfect, you need to act like nothing bad ever happened to you in life, because God's healed it. That stuff you went through as a child, that from, no, doesn't exist anymore. That's not true. We all still carry scars. Now our choices are whether they're healing scars or festering wounds of resentment. Those are our choices. But it's okay that we still go through stuff. Now, did the prodigal son deserve what he went through? Honestly, I don't know. It's easy to say, well, yeah, he went off and, liquor and wild women and all that. Maybe. But you forget there was a famine. Was it his fault there was a famine? No. You see, there's always layers. So when it's easy for me to look down on someone. It's easy for me to be like, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and I did all that. But you know what? I had access to resources that other people don't. And I still have scars too. Are they deserved? Some of them. Have I inflicted scars on others? Yes. Do I want God to heal them? Yes. And I pray that for the same grace. And if I can carry that and carry that. And I know I'm going a little different than maybe what you've heard from the prodigal son. But the point of the father running out to his son, it wasn't to grant his son anything. The other son tended to think he got some kind of special treatment. The father just acknowledged what the son already had. The value as family, as members of the father's family. So, let's see, I did all that. Okay, but we're not finished yet because don't forget about the other son. And this is the son that, kind of like Carl was saying last week, it's really easy for me to also resonate with this son. Like, hey, I've been doing everything right. And isn't that kind of what the Pharisees are saying? Hey, we were doing everything right. We went to school, we learned all this, we dressed this way, we pray this many times, we say these words, we sprinkle holy water, we, speak in tongues to order our Big Macs or whatever. It's they're doing everything right, and they honestly are believing they're doing everything right. So why do these slackers get attention? Are we any different? And again, I'm not even trying to demonize or villainize the Pharisees. They're living what they know. So now we've got the oldest son saying, well, why is he getting all this attention? Because somehow now the oldest son is feeling like maybe this. Dad, why are you treating my little brother like this? When he ran off, he should be worthless. I'm the one who stayed, and you never give me a goat, let alone a cat. Do we ever feel like we've lost our value? But the father even tells him, son, you haven't lost your value with me. It doesn't matter. Are there consequences? Yeah. If he's already gotten his inheritance, the youngest son's already gotten his inheritance, I seriously doubt he's going to get another one. That's just a consequence. But it doesn't change this youngest son's value, and affirming the younger son doesn't make the older son any less valuable. So there are multiple takeaways we can do from this parable that, may or may not not be a little overused sometimes. So if however you're feeling, what about those times we see other people maybe get money or win the lottery, or maybe we look down and go, oh, you get welfare, or you get this, or you get that, and I'm out here working for my money. Really? I know very few people who are like, yippee! Let me get food stamps. A lot of folks on food stamps have their own scars and have reasons and they need that help. And it's not up to me to decide on that. And I can set boundaries for myself on what I'm willing to contribute. That's fine. But do we have a right to be angry when others seem to succeed easily? I mean, I guess we do. All the older brother knew is that the young brother took off and then came back however long later after blowing all his money. He doesn't know what the younger brother went through. And neither do we. We don't know what either of them went through. We don't know what the older brother went through, staying and picking up the younger brother's slack on the farm, or whatever he had to go through. But I hope I'm not the only one who has been guilty of whining to God about some sibling getting unfair rewards. Why are they succeeding? Why does that guy have a jet plane? Oh, smote them, Lord! Or now we'll say, try to tell them to damn them. I'm going to damn you. Really? You're going to curse somebody because you think they've had an easier life than you. I mean, I've done it, and I still am guilty of it, thinking, I've been through all my stuff. I've got my scars. But your scars aren't as important. They're not as cool as my scars, apparently. But both reactions, the younger son and the older son, are forms of entitlement. But what God wants to steer us toward is affirmation. Affirmation is the reflection of God's love. It's acknowledging that people have different needs, but that it doesn't change their value. The thinking that I'm more deserving of something than you are, or less deserving of something than you are, that's entitlement. The thinking and the rejoicing when someone gets a blessing, that's affirmation. And affirmation is only really able to be done correctly by God. That's why it's important that we look to God for our full affirmation. But it doesn't get us off the hook, because we're supposed to be reflections of that. And what do we do about that? Yes, God is the true affirming being, or whatever. Anything we do is tainted by humanness. Humanity, I guess, was the right term, but whatever. Does it even matter? Well, yeah. Because entitlement is dangerous. See, it builds up another parable of the weeds. Entitlement. I know y'all are hungry. We'll get to it. Entitlement grows up like weeds and chokes out our faith because it overcomes it with resentment. Entitlement makes those scars, instead of healing, makes them infected and spreads that infection. Entitlement not only prohibits me from sharing the true love of God and hurting others in that regard, it really hurts me because I'm focused on my own junk, my own pussy infection-y, instead of trying to heal. Do y'all follow me at all? Is this making any sense? Okay, so what do we do about it? I like to end with, what's the point? What do we do about this? To overcome this human condition, I try to acknowledge that, number one, everyone has obstacles.
Yes.
We all have them. And no one is closer to my obstacles than me, right? I have my mountains to climb. You have your mountains to climb. Eric, to me, your mountain is way over there, so it looks small. But you're the one there. It's not so small, is it? My mountains are big because I'm the one right there. It's that whole speck and plank. It doesn't mean one's more or less. It means perspective. And we need to remember that I don't have to decide whose mountains are bigger or not. That's not even up to me. That's been decided when Jesus said it's finished. It doesn't matter. So let's just say they are all exactly the same size. They just have different colors, different terrains, different temperatures maybe. And that's what helps me. It helps me to go, my mountains don't have to be the same. And maybe they are molehills to you. And that's okay too. But that's that acknowledgement that we all have our own customized, built for us obstacles, and we have our own customized, built for us gifts and blessings. Sometimes those obstacles are self-built. Sometimes they're caused by others. Sometimes, just like a famine, they just happen. Sometimes, whatever piles on can make them. And if we spend too long trying to decide what caused it or whether it's worth it to have this obstacle or that, or whether I deserve it, then we will lose track of the whole point. The point is we also have gifts and tools to overcome those obstacles. And we have the gifts and tools to help others overcome as well. Like I preached on July 3rd. What do we do with the gifts we're given? Then it was freedom. What do we do with those? Do we oppress others with it? Or do we help them? Because if we get to thinking that somehow God's love, and I've said this before, if we get to thinking that somehow God's love is like pie, then we'll be trying to hoard it for ourselves. Well, if God gives you too big of a piece, then I won't have enough. But that's not God's love. God's love is like the PI pie, 3.14159. It goes on and 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 on. So you don't have to be so insecure about it. And I'm preaching to myself. Because no matter how crisp and shiny we think we are, like the older brother, or no matter how torn up and crumpled we think we are, like the younger brother, we both have the same value in God's eyes. And it's not $20. It's priceless. It's completely priceless. God treasures each and every one of us with no hierarchy and no exception. And if you wonder it, if you feel like that's not the truth, it is finished. Take it to the cross, because Jesus says it's finished. You don't have to feel like that. You don't have to follow these steps or wear this on your head or memorize this or whatever. So let's continue to put down our own heavy luggage of entitlement that leads us to judge both ourselves and others, and replace those negative comparisons. I learned this from Jane. Rather than trying to just avoid negativity, let's try to replace it. Replace those negative comparisons that tell you you're worth more or less than someone else with the full affirmation that God adores you. I mean, totally. Like, really. Just go out there and be ordinary. Because the ordinary you is extraordinary in your Creator's eyes. Let us pray. Father, as we remember how to interact with other people,